Welcome to Newsmax TV. I'm Ashley Martella. Using their enhanced majority, House Democrats have muscled through a package of rules changes that makes it easier to advance their agenda. Republicans say it virtually cripples their ability to influence legislation, including expected Democrat tax increases. On the line to discuss this with us now is Missouri Republican U.S. Representative Roy Blunt, the former minority whip. Welcome back to Newsmax, sir.
Well, Ashley, it's good to be with you again, and thanks for your interest in these changes that the majority's made that are truly going to have negative effects on moving the positive agenda forward.
Specifically, what did Nancy Pelosi and crew do? Why is it dangerous? And what, if anything, can the Republicans do about it?
Well, in a major reversal of the last dozen years of Republican majority, they repealed term limits for committee chairman. That further consolidates power in the hands of a few people, and frankly makes more people where they have to go along with a very few leaders, and they also silenced the minority's ability, in this case Republican ability, to really bring other ideas to the floor. Now, clearly, we used rules that had been in the rules package for at least 100 years to maximum advantage in a way that brought other alternatives to the floor that were used to take bills off the floor when they couldn't defeat our efforts to send a bill back to committee. But the efforts to send a bill back to committee were often used on bills that had never been to committee. I mean, this has been a majority in the previous 2 years, and even this week, that would bring legislation to the floor that had never been to committee, had never been debated. The majority, gave the minority no indication of what was going to happen or what it was going to look like before you were on the floor having it happen. And so these tools of the motion to recommit, particularly the motion to recommit to where the committee actually did have to look at the legislation again, were incredibly helpful to us and have now been taken away. Remember, 100 years ago, the House minority insisted that the tyranny of Speaker Joe Cannon had to end, and these rules were put in place so that the minority would always have a chance to bring their ideas to the floor and even send a bill back to committee. And over again, we were able to do that in the last Congress, and apparently that was enough for Speaker Pelosi, and so this 100-year-old precedent has been broken, and we won't be able to do the things we did last year when Mr. Hoekstra offered a recommittal motion to an intelligence bill. Democrats happened to defeat that motion, but a few days later they brought the same motion to the floor and passed it. Miss Bachmann tried to amend a bill so that illegal immigrants weren't eligible for financial assistance under legislation regarding housing. The Democrats pulled the bill, and eventually they brought that bill back, even though we were not allowed to vote to send it back to committee. It came back from committee with that language on it, and passed with the language that a minority member, Michelle Bachmann, had suggested needed to be there. So this is a use of their power that appears to be in absolute contradiction to everything that the next president said he wanted to do in Washington. And we'll see if he's the Barack Obama who ran for president and tries to make his party do the same, or the Barack Obama who was very comfortable being part of the Illinois political machine and never defied the party in any way. You know, one of the great differences in Barack Obama and John McCain was John McCain had a history of defying his party, and Barack Obama had a history of never doing that.
When the Republicans took over Congress in the 1994 Newt Gingrich Revolution, Republicans were offering conciliatory gestures to the Democrats regarding input and participation in everything. Now, with what Pelosi has done, does it make the GOP upset with itself for playing Mr. Nice Guy back then?
Well, it's just the opposite, certainly, of what we did. I think the difference was that Republicans were confident in the 1995 Congress, and frankly, for a dozen years, we were confident enough in our ideas that we were willing to let those ideas be challenged in the debate, to be challenged in the marketplace of ideas. And one thing we saw in the Pelosi leadership in the last Congress was that if you're not willing to let your ideas be challenged on the House floor, they probably didn't have much of a chance of becoming law. Now, in this Congress, with a Senate that's much more inclined to agree with Nancy Pelosi and a president that's more inclined to agree with the Speaker, they may be able to get their bills passed into law anyway. But in the last Congress, they had this tremendous concern about not letting the alternatives get to the floor, and they've taken that concern even a step further in this Congress.
Is there anything Republicans can do to fight back about this?
You know, Republicans can make it more difficult for them to get their daily work done, but at the end of the day, there's not a lot Republicans can do about that, or the unfair ratio in committees. The House is now about 60-40 Republican and Democrat, but none of the most critical committees have 40% of their members as Republicans now, and clearly the deck is pretty well stacked to shove a Speaker Pelosi agenda through the House, and we'll see if that's also a Barack Obama agenda as it goes to the Senate.
Missouri Representative Roy Blunt, always a pleasure to speak with you, sir, and good luck.
Ashley, good to talk to you, and keep an eye on this Congress. It deserves watching, I'll tell you that.
Indeed. Thank you for watching Newsmax TV.